So statement 13 reads, Mahamudra and disciplined conduct have a single vital point. This is Jigten Sumgon's unique teachings. It is his unique teaching. Of course, to say that it is his unique teaching is not to say that other teachers, have not taught this point. Here is saying that especially among those who teach Mahamudra the way Gampopa teaches it. This word Mahamudra, by the way, right, occurs in especially Vajrayana context. In the Tantras, for example, often Mahamudra is another way of saying, when they say, oh, someone achieved Mahamudra, oh, you should strive to achieve Mahamudra, they're talking about the result of Buddhahood. But in the Vajrayana context, so kind of, you could say Buddhahood, but using Vajrayana vocabulary. So that is the result of practicing Vajrayana, is complete and perfect Buddhahood, which is also called Mahamudra. Then Gampopa, bringing together the teachings of Milarepa, of the lineage that goes from Milarepa back to Marpa, Marpa to Naropa and Tilopa in India. So Gampopa received training there later in his life, but earlier in his life, Gampopa received many teachings and trainings from the Kadampa lineage of Atisha. Then, of course, Atisha himself being Bengali, being Indian, Atisha also had his Indian teachers, including Naropa, including Metripa. So then another kind of transmission comes through Atisha's Kadampa lineage, which Gampopa began his kind of serious spiritual pursuit under the training of these Kadampa teachers. And so eventually Gampopa kind of blended these two together. But both these streams came from Mahasiddhas in India. So the Indian Mahasiddha tradition of Mahamudra came through two streams, and these two streams were combined in Gampopa. Then Gampopa, taught this to his first generation of disciples, his immediate disciples, such as the first Karmapa, such as Pamodrupa. Then Jigten Sumgon, of course, is one of the main disciples of Pamodrupa. So then, particularly in this family, in this Gampopa family, more than anybody else in this early period, 11th, 12th century, more than anybody else, Jigten Sumgon emphasizes the importance of not like, I guess you could say, exaggerating how wonderful, how great, how amazing, how important Mahamudra is at the expense of other aspects of the training. Sometimes Buddhist texts and Buddhist teachers, you have feeling like, they're getting carried away. Dare we say they get carried away? But it feels like that, when they're praising something as really good, really amazing, really essential, really important. It's almost, you feel like, it's gone overboard, because it goes to say, if you have this, nothing else you need. If you have this, everything else you can not have, and so on and so forth. So definitely within this family of masters and disciples, there were some who was so like touched and so impressed by Mahamudra that sometimes it sounds as if, if you have Mahamudra, you don't need anything else. It is true if you genuinely have the Mahamudra path and you have reached also Mahamudra result. In that sense, you could say, yes, you have Mahamudra, you don't need anything because Mahamudra includes everything. Yes, of course, But again, concerned with those of us who are closer to the side of confusion than the side of awaken, then for those of us who are closer to the side of confusion, Kyobpa Rinpoche, very compassionate, very careful, not to use language or expressions that might accidentally lead us into thinking, oh, disciplined conduct, not necessary. Because disciplined conduct, so this is where kind of Kyobpa Rinpoche's unique emphasis. And Kyobpa Rinpoche says, where did this code of conduct come from? Where did this training called disciplined conduct come from? First of all, they're not like how maybe say in Christianity or in Islam, where we say, this was given by an all-powerful God. An all-powerful God who made some rules, and while some of these rules make sense, other of these rules arbitrary. Why is something good? Because God says it's good and made it good, and therefore it is good. So disciplined conduct within Buddha's path don't carry that kind of connotation. At the same time, disciplined conduct, is also not something that the Buddha imposed on the monks and nuns in the most tight way, and then imposed on lay persons in a loose way. Oh, you lay people, you get special discount. You don't have to work so hard. Oh, you monks and nuns, I'm going to, give a lot of difficult things. I'm going to make life difficult for you. No, that's not the meaning of disciplined conduct. Yeah? Buddha gave disciplined conduct to everyone. Then it's up to us, each of us, what capacity we have in really and truly taking this disciplined conduct and using that as the direct way to prevent suffering. Why do you practice Mahamudra in the end? To prevent suffering. So both the intention of giving disciplined conduct in all levels of details. So by the way, also in the sutras, in Jigten Sumgon's teachings, in all the teachings of the great masters, they say the root of the monks and nuns 200, 300, 400, 500 vows and precepts, the root of that is in the 5 precepts that the laity is encouraged to keep. So also don't think, oh, I cannot be like a monk or nun. Disciplined conduct, but the root of it is in the 5 precepts, the 5 vows. That laity, Buddha says, you can, you can keep these. So anyway, so what was the Buddha's intention when he gave all these details contained under the topic of disciplined conduct? Is to prevent us from creating suffering, is to support us in the creating of happiness. And then, what is the purpose of practicing Mahamudra, of achieving Mahamudra? To eradicate suffering, to bring about happiness. And so these 2 topics have a single vital point. And sometimes we get carried away by philosophy. We get carried away by mysticism. And then we forget, why practice Mahamudra? Why practice Dzogchen? Why practice Madhyamaka? If not for the abandonment and clearing of the mental defilements, the 10 non-virtues, to be free from the 8 worldly concerns, if it is not for that purpose, then what other purpose? To overcome self-cherishing, to develop impartial love and compassion towards all sentient beings. If it is not for those reasons, what is the reason to practice Mahamudra? Likewise, disciplined conduct, if it is not for those reasons, what else is there? Elsewhere, the Buddha actually also calls attention to the dangers of seemingly observing disciplined conduct, but observing disciplined conduct with wrong view, wrong understanding, which is like thinking that disciplined conduct, thinking that, disciplined conduct, we follow it because if we don't follow it, we will be punished and then bad things will happen to us. And sometimes, some people, when they practice disciplined conduct, they become so harsh. Because there's one aspect of disciplined conduct where you are, you are being tough. And so you are being tough, so you are being less indulgent, of yourself. So you become more critical. You say, that is not skillful. That is not good. Sometimes this can get you to become like very harsh, Then you become very harsh with yourself. And once you become very harsh with yourself, it's a lot easier and you don't even notice that you're harsh with others. And that's a wrong way of practicing disciplined conduct. Instead of reducing mental defilements, it seems like your practice of disciplined conduct is growing certain types of mental defilements. Then among Kyobpa Rinpoche's colleagues during his time, some of them are so confident of their Mahamudra understanding. And part of the Mahamudra understanding is, of course, also understanding emptiness. And that led some of them to express or to articulate ideas such as, once you realize Mahamudra, once you realize emptiness, cause and effect has no power over you. Again, right? We already seen how Kyobpa Rinpoche would not use that kind of expressing the power of Mahamudra. He says, don't, what is this? Which is actually a real interesting question for us to ask, what is this obsession with, How can I get rid of karma? If you're occupied with, when can I arrive at the place where I don't need to think about karma anymore? That shows, like right now, maybe we have wrong understanding of karma. So that we see it like a burden we need to get rid of, So that means, somewhere there, we still think, discipline, conduct, and karma were taught to make life difficult for us, rather than to make life better, easier. So we really need to, check, with ourselves. How? What is our understanding of, the purpose and the role of disciplined conduct and the meaning of karmic causality? So we need to look at that carefully. So here Khenpo Kunpal, his commentary, he says, likewise, since precious disciplined conduct abandons all faults in one's mind stream, all the faults of one's mind stream, of one's being, of one's habits, and it is the basis for all the good qualities to arise and so forth. Therefore, Mahamudra and precious disciplined conduct have a single vital point. Both trainings is to overcome the faults, to abandon the faults, and to cause the good qualities, the Buddha qualities, to arise, to manifest. Jigten Sumgon taught this, and it is his unique and excellent teaching, his unsurpassed viewpoint. It is said in the Samadhi Raja Sutra, the king of meditative concentration is the meditation on emptiness. So then that's one aspect, emptiness. So the emptiness aspect, yes, everybody seems to get. But that is also where people get carried away. Oh, empty. Therefore, cause and effect. Or is of secondary importance. Some are more careful. They will not say, oh, cause and effect don't apply anymore. They will say, oh, that's a secondary concern. But no. It's not secondary, it's the other side of the same coin. We say two sides of the same coin, two sides of your hand, this side and this side. So here, Samadhi Raja Sutra says, the king of meditative concentration is the meditation on emptiness, is cultivating our understanding, refining our understanding of emptiness. But it abides in the one who has pure discipline. This meditation on emptiness can only develop, can only bring true result in one who has pure disciplined conduct. If one permanently rests in equanimity regarding the nature of phenomena, however, childish people do not comprehend it. They will not understand it even through effort. Okay, the translation here is a little off. Not sure what. If one permanently rests in equanimity regarding the nature of phenomena, childish people do not comprehend it. They will not understand it even through effort. So maybe it's not, if not, that you should rest permanently, maybe too strong, maybe that word, I don't know. You should rest, you should abide like continuously in equanimity towards all phenomena. Equanimity towards all phenomena doesn't mean, you don't recognize anymore what are causes of suffering and what are causes of happiness. Equanimity here again goes back to the point, without attachment and aversion. That you should abide continuously with this attitude towards all experiences, towards all phenomena. And the last line is saying, however, childish people, they don't understand this. And even when they seem to put effort into it, they don't get that emptiness on the one hand, and this, the cultivating of emptiness on the one hand, and the training in disciplined conduct, they are actually interdependent. And when you train in these two aspects, and when you're successful, when you're beginning to move in the right direction in training in these two sides, and then more and more you can just abide in equanimity regarding the nature of phenomena. So Jigten Sumgon stated, children, disciples who are like me, until we finally attain the 10 strengths. That's complete Buddhahood, is when you attain the 10 strengths. Until we finally attain the 10 strengths, even if our bodies and life get pulverized, pounded into powder, that would be easy to bear. However, do not even for a moment separate yourselves from the disciplined conduct that the teacher has taught us, has given us. Glorious Pamodrupa, who is one with the Buddhas, abiding in the past, present, and future, and in all the 10 directions, said, if the discipline of body is fully pure, one attains the fully pure meditative concentration of the body. And if one attains the discriminative wisdom that liberates the body, it is the same. And one attains the wisdom that liberates the body. It is the same with speech and mind. If it is discipline that enables one to attain the unattained, full liberation of the mind and wisdom. It is disciplined conduct that makes the attainment stable, and it is disciplined conduct that enhances that stability. Disciplined conduct is the ultimate Buddha, Dharmakaya, the master of the 10 powers. I have no other relatives, thus I tell this to you, disciples. I have no other heart advice and testament aside from this important point that we need to develop the right relationship with disciplined conduct. And Jigten Sumgon said, if the protector of the world, Pamodrupa, should have taught an emptiness that is different from discipline, let me die here. It's like cursing himself. He says, if Pamodrupa has taught, some kind of emptiness that is divorced from disciplined conduct, then let me be struck down by lightning. Let me die here. In part because we know in history from historical sources, there were some disciples of Pamodrupa. I don't know what exactly is going on, but there were some that were behaving very unruly, going about doing funny things and say, we have Mahamudra, we have realized emptiness, nothing can touch us now. In fact, like in India, for example, and this is not Buddhist, but just kind of the equivalent kind of problem. There are, historically in India, there is a group of ascetics, they are devotees of Shiva, the great god Shiva, followers of Shiva. Not all followers, there's one group of the followers of Shiva, but they're all ascetics. They have taken the vows of celibacy, they've taken disciplined conduct actually. But then the disciplined conduct is basically geared towards like overcoming fear. Right? So they train by confronting fears, fear of death, go to the cemetery, fear of, dangerous animal situations and everything. So then once they become fearless in terms of death, it is said that then, they have achieved like oneness or, closeness to Shiva. And the great god Shiva represents the destructive powers of the cycle of formation and dissolution. So Brahma, the great god, represents the creative forces, and then the destructive forces, Shiva. And so what happened to these ascetics? They became fierce warriors. And different kings, including the British, recruited these warriors to fight for them. So this sort of, from our perspective, right? And even from perspective of some other Hindus, they say this is a perversion because they have achieved oneness with Shiva. then they feel, doesn't matter anymore, even if we engage in warfare. So there were some like that, during Jigten Sumgon's time, even the people who practice Mahamudra. And likewise, like in Japan, the samurai class, the warrior class, they really like, Zen training. And what do they like about Zen training? One side is disciplined. Yeah, very disciplined, But also Zen training, they realize, these warrior lords, these aristocrats who own these samurai warriors, they realize that Zen training can also make these warriors fearless, not afraid of death. So then they send them to, do Zen training. But no bodhicitta. Oh, careful. Then emptiness, doesn't matter. In emptiness, nothing exists. There's no killing. Nothing to kill. Nobody is killing. So you find, this kind of problem, creeping in. Of course, you and me, our reality is such that, we're not like sitting around going, should I join the military and kill or not? Our predicament is not so bombastic. But nonetheless, it applies. So fortunately, we have good enough karma that we are not like practicing Mahamudra or Zen or Shiva devotion to become warriors, So we're very fortunate in this way. But nonetheless, we need to be clear about how, if it is true Mahamudra realization, it will not cause you to be careless in your conduct. And if it is liberating disciplined conduct, it will not impede your boundless mind. Yeah. Those who say, disciplined conduct gets in the way, there is some reason why they are saying that. What they are saying, that disciplined conduct can get in the way of achieving Mahamudra, what they are referring to is wrong way of practicing disciplined conduct, which is the practice of disciplined conduct that makes you more and more tight, rigid, and harsh, as I explained. So in any case, that is not the right way to cultivate disciplined conduct. Likewise, if you cultivate a type of Mahamudra, that the more deeply you are realizing this Mahamudra, the more careless you are with regards to how you act in the world, how you relate to others, then it's not authentic Mahamudra. It's a perversion of Mahamudra. And he also said, Kyobpa Jigten Sumgon also said, in your Mahamudra, which is vast as space, the keeping of pure discipline is not contained, but all transgressions and faults are contained. Contained means under control. So, if you practice the Mahamudra, which is vast as space, it never contradicts disciplined conduct. What it contradicts, what it should contradict, what it should, dispel and be in conflict with, is transgressions and faults, contained in that sense. This does not eliminate what is to be eliminated on the path of seeing and on the path of meditation. This does not eliminate What is this is a reference to the 5 paths. You can talk about the 10 bhumis is one path structure, the 10 levels of bodhisattva training. An alternative way of explaining is called the 5 paths. So the path of accumulation, the path of joining, the path of seeing, the path of meditation, and the path of no more learning. And these are the 5 paths. And so here, 538 says, so sorry, wrong. Let's look at 538. This is helpful because not having the Tibetan, I'm not sure. Okay, 538 says, this quote is a sarcastic description of the wrong understanding of Mahamudra. So here, okay, Jigten Sumgon is making a sarcastic remark. Yeah. So he says, if your Mahamudra that you say is vast as space, only has faults and transgression and no disciplined conduct, so contained in an ordinary sense, then, you will never achieve the path of seeing or the path of meditation. And not achieving path of seeing or path of meditation, there's no way you can ever attain enlightenment. And so then this is also related to earlier, I mentioned how, we might say, I'm practicing Mahamudra, right? So what does this mean? Just let thoughts come and go. Don't need to do anything. Just be present. Thoughts come and go. Thoughts come and go. But thoughts come and go. These thoughts, where are they arising and where are they going? Within your own minds. And that means you're being distracted, Yes, it is true that when thoughts come and you see the nature of thoughts, then thoughts dissolve. So seeing has to be present. It's not just that it's so vast, and then the crowds of thoughts still come, surging like a fierce waterfall. Then you think, I'm Mahamudra now. It's not like that. So in a very famous Mahamudra instruction Kyobpa Rinpoche gave, the song of Mahamudra, Fivefold Mahamudra, it says, if you don't clear the mass of thoughts, the masses of thoughts, then the sun and stars, sun and moon and stars of this innate wisdom will not be visible, will not shine. Of course, they are shining, but as long as all these clouds are still crowding the sky, even though they're shining, we don't see. So if there is haze, forest fire, all the smoke, even if the sun, star, moon, all are shining, which they are, but we don't get benefit, And he said, since I know a Dharma teaching like this, I cannot be measured with the head height compared to all the other Buddhists here in Tibet. Instead, I am an entire body length superior. Very strong statement. Very confident, very strong, he says, I'm not just a head height, better than all these Buddhists in Tibet right now. I'm a full body better than them. Why? Now, it sounds like, how boastful, how prideful. No, what he's saying is, because I understand this key point, that Mahamudra and disciplined conduct do not obstruct each other. And because I have this, I'm confident that I, what I teach and what I practice is superior to what everybody else is doing here. Yes, go ahead, Omar.
According with Jigten Sumgon,
Mm-hmm.
the so-called crazy wisdom is a misunderstanding, right? But is there a where this term comes from, or is there a true skillful means on that?
Yeah, so skillful, crazy wisdom. I mean, that means a lot of things, These days, people like to use that, And these days, it's just crazy. There is another expression like jajel, like throwing to the wind. So some people will interpret that, as conduct that is throwing it to the wind. So some interpret this as, do whatever you like. But Jigten Sumgon will say the meaning of that is throw your 8 worldly concerns to the winds. Give up. So crazy wisdom, Milarepa's crazy wisdom. What does that mean? Milarepa says, the world thinks I'm crazy. But look at them. They are crazy. People think I'm crazy. Why? Because I walk around naked. And they say, oh, it's so shameful, all these things hanging out. And he says, but you let your afflictive emotions, you wear your afflictive emotions like they are jewelry. And you are not shameful. Who is crazy? I'm crazy or you are crazy? He says, the world has gone crazy. And they say, I'm crazy. That is crazy wisdom. So I don't know, depends on what you mean, when you say crazy wisdom. If you mean some stories about unconventional behavior of certain Mahasiddhas, right? Even there, Jigten Sumgon says, it only looks crazy to you. So he says, stories of Mahasiddhas like drinking, for example, from morning to night. They're not drunk, So that means the alcohol content is not present. Can you do that? It's crazy like that, outrageous like that. Not crazy getting drunk. Crazy getting drunk any weekend on any campus, Lots of crazy people getting drunk, called students. They're not Mahasiddhas. Yeah. Marpa, you say, crazy wisdom. What is the proof that it is crazy wisdom? Milarepa is the proof. Milarepa is the proof. His Marpa's seemingly harsh methods of training Milarepa worked because Marpa could see directly what is the cause and effect that is going on here and what he needed to do. So for crazy wisdom, it's only crazy from the perspective of people standing on the side watching. But for this wisdom, for this craziness to qualify as wisdom, it is said that it is as hard as shooting 2 arrows into the air and having the 2 tips actually meet. What are the chances of that? How precise the skill of the 2 archers have to be. Or in terms of disciple and master. Disciple, of course, not much skill, but need at least enough skill to shoot the arrow up and not like right? So if it is like me, it's like no chance even for the master's arrow tip to meet your arrow tip. So disciple must have some ability, okay? But the greater power has to be in the master's side. So even if the disciple can shoot the arrow, but absolutely no chance of actually hitting, a master only has genuine crazy wisdom if the master is able to shoot it's almost like an arrow that behaves like a missile destroyer, It can turn around and search for the arrow tip that the disciple shot and meet in midair. What are the chances of that, Thus, since a lion cub of a lion parent is of the lion race, it must use a lion voice. For example, a mule starts with a horse voice, then it has a donkey voice, and in the end, it gets the voice that is neither of those 2. Likewise, we followers and disciples of Jigten Sumgon should not start with a lion's roar, saying that Mahamudra and discipline are one, then utter a general fox's bark, saying that they are not one, and in the end say neither of these with our own voice of a barren mule that is neither horse nor donkey. We should not talk like that, but rather we children must take after our father. So meaning he says, so you say you are Drikung. You say you are Drikungpa, meaning you follow the Lord of Drikung. And then that's like, you're roaring like a tiger. On the one hand. But on the other hand, you are barking like a fox when your actions don't follow that. Mahamudra and disciplined conduct are one. Then you end up like a mule, neither donkey nor horse. Don't be like that. So Sherab Jungne, he quotes Sherab Jungne, our only father is the Dharma master Jigten Sumgon. Please do not follow your uncle and relatives. So there's a slight, kind of like, you can detect like a little slight criticism in a way, of like maybe other people who are also teaching Mahamudra, but, kind of very loose in their disciplined conduct. And so Sherab Jungne is reminding Kyobpa's disciples, don't follow the uncles and the cousins because we have our father, We should follow our father's example. Father's voice proclaims emptiness as cause and result. What is emptiness? Cause and effect. What is cause and effect? Emptiness. And in fact, Nagarjuna, says this very clearly. Lions, please do not speak with the fox's voice. Father's homeland is the solitary mountain places. Please do not roam around in bad places in villages. Father's house is the three vows as a single vital point. That all three vows, have a single vital point, which is to overcome all the faults and transgressions and to give rise to all the good qualities. Please do not leave the house unpeopled and ownerless. Meaning, don't abandon this house and go live somewhere else. Father's field is the four mudras. Sons, please do not leave it without making effort in this farm. So it says, footnote 33 is a brief explanation of the four mudras. Footnote 33. Jigten Sumgon has a special way of explaining the four mudras. These four mudras, again, it's Vajrayana vocabulary. In many tantras, they talk about the four mudras. And so the four mudras, if you look at page 26 of this book, footnote 33 says the four mudras are called Karma mudra, Dharma mudra, Samaya mudra, and Mahamudra. And Jigten Sumgon explains their meaning in two ways. One is that Karma mudra is to go for refuge in the three jewels with certainty. Dharma mudra is the discipline of abandoning mental afflictions. Samaya mudra is to practice bodhicitta, and Mahamudra is to practice the generation and completion stages. Then another explanation you can find in his collected teachings. Karma mudra refers to virtuous and non-virtuous actions. Dharma mudra refers to the fact that virtue is positive and leads to happiness, while non-virtue is negative and leads to suffering. Samaya mudra refers to the infallible nature of virtue and non-virtue, and Mahamudra refers to the fact that virtue and non-virtue are primordially birthless and free from elaborations. These are very unusual definitions of the four mudras. If you look up somewhere else, the four mudras, you get a different explanation. But here, Kyobpa Rinpoche wants to talk about the four mudras in terms of especially virtue and non-virtue, discipline, conduct, and karma, and the relationship between karmic causality and emptiness. Father's clothes are the three precious trainings. Sons, please do not lie around unclothed, naked. Father's wealth is the jewels of the two accumulations. Please do not stop polishing these jewels. Father's friends are the six classes of beings. Please do not abandon concern for these six classes of beings. Father's enemies are the mental afflictions, the accumulations of wrongdoings. Please do not let the enemies raise their heads. Father's weapons are the 10 teachings and the 3 teachings. Please do not leave the weapons in the open unsheathed. That means be callous about these teachings. These are secret teachings by Jigten Sumgon that mainly function to dispel obstacles and ignorance as well as enhance one's practice. These are very specialized teachings called the 10 teachings and the 3 teachings. In this way, Jigten Sumgon and Sherab Jungne instructed us to greatly cherish the disciplined conduct that is precise regarding cause and result. Let me look at one thing. Yeah, in the larger commentary, they give four reasons why discipline, conduct, and Mahamudra are one, non-contradictory, inseparable. Maybe tomorrow, yeah, we can go over this from this big commentary. So today we will end here. Sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and lineage gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas, dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis. Please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara, and the resultant states of hearers, solitary realizers, and may all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstructors who harm, those who create obstacles, maras who mislead, and their mara retinues have happiness, be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, and precious Bodhi. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflictive thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment. With my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta, may I come under the care of virtuous spiritual friends, and having become as limitless as space, may I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Okay. See everyone tomorrow.